Joining us now, Curtis Ellis, live from New York, where my beloved Houston Astros opened the baseball season today in the Bronx against the Yankees. Dallas Keuchel on the mound. Let's get that first win under our belt. Curtis Ellis, Executive Director, American Jobs Alliance. Good to have you with us, man.
It's always great to be here with you, John, the big boy pants-wearing commander of talk radio.
And common sense, you got it. By the way, Bernie Sanders taking on Hillary in Wisconsin and taking her on jobs, NAFTA. He said, since NAFTA, 850,000 jobs in the United States gone, 25,000 manufacturing plants gone. Gone. And now she's playing footsie with TPP. What do you think of this whole thing?
Well, this is the issue. Trump is doing the same thing. He's taken on Cruz on TPP, on free trade, on globalism. That's his closing argument in Wisconsin. Trump's closing argument to the voters is you can't trust Cruz on the trade deal. He cast the deciding vote for Obama trade fast track in the Senate. Cruz is up on air in Wisconsin with an ad saying, I'm for fair trade, not free trade. Trump is saying you can't believe him. After the election, he will vote for Obama trade, TPP, and he will force it through. In the core of his being, he is a pro-free trade globalist. That's what Trump is saying. So this is the issue. All the candidates realize this is the issue, the defining issue for Wisconsin and actually for the entire nation. The polls show that throughout every region of the country, not just the Rust Belt, not just the industrial Great Lakes states, people hate this free trade. They rightly blame it for the decimation of the American middle class. And it is the fanatical internationalism of the Washington elite, of people like Ted Cruz, who was born and bred in this internationalist mindset. He was trained and groomed in the Ivy League to believe in it. He served in the George W. Bush administration, the son of the New World Order, you might say. And he adopts these poses of being against free trade, just as Hillary adopts this pose. And they use almost the same words to describe it. I'm against TPP in its current form, which is kind of like what Randy Forbes said to you the other week. I can't vote for Obama trade now. I can't vote for TPP now because I wouldn't want to give this president that kind of power. Well, there's a loophole in there that you could drive a truck through straight from Mexico to Canada on the NAFTA superhighway. It's a loophole big enough for a superhighway with trucks with a freighter from China. You could drive a freighter from China through that loophole.
Well, look, and you're right, Curtis. And what I thought was very unnerving in Randy Forbes' answer is he never really blasted the trade deal, okay? He never really said, look, I'm not going to do this because it doesn't make any sense for American workers or American jobs. He said, I can't give this amount of power to this president. Well, this president is out of there in January.
Right. That's right.
So that was a loophole, right?
Totally. That's a loophole. Yeah. It's almost more than a loophole. It's an admission that he's not against the deal.
Exactly.
He's just against, he doesn't like this guy in the Oval Office right now. Well, how about you tell us how you stand on the deal itself? Well, he's either been brainwashed or just misinformed if he thinks this is a good deal.
It's just money. It's just... He's getting the money from those donors. Look, Curtis, that's what this whole thing is about. He's getting the money from the donors. But look, that was a Washington insider doublespeak establishment answer, which is why people are sick and tired of the D.C. cabal. Because if you really look at Randy's answer to me, whenever that was Wednesday, it was, I can't give that amount of power to this president, right? Which basically gave him every possible loophole to do whatever he wants. Exactly. And so it's like, well, let me just placate Fredericks' audience for 5 minutes
Let me try to fool the audience. Let's be honest. Placate, yeah, fool them. Is not using the euphemism of placate, which is probably how Randy thinks. I'm going to placate the audience. I'm going to make them feel good. Folks, let's quit pussyfooting around. They are lying to us. They're trying to pull the wool over our eyes. And what the Trump uprising has shown us is we're not going to be fooled again. You know, you said it, John. These guys are paid. The donors are paying them to vote for this stuff, to go for this stuff. We've seen it. We have seen it that Washington is loaded with lobbyists, but beyond the lobbyists, the direct lobbyists of the people who are making a killing by building things in China and selling it in the U.S., things that used to be built in Ohio and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and New York and Virginia, the furniture that used to be sold in the stores used to be made in Virginia. It's not anymore. It's made in Vietnam. It's made in China. It's made in all kinds of crummy places. Not only do you have the lobbyists for these people paying the politicians, you've got these think tanks. And you've got these nonprofit associations with high-sounding names, right? And these think tanks are generating the policies and the excuses as to why free trade is great. And these think tanks are funded directly by the foreign governments. People like Indonesia are funding campaigns to remove tariffs on Indonesian paper, which is putting the paper workers in Wisconsin out of business, right? So you've got foreign governments buying the campaigns to persuade our elected officials. They can't donate directly to the candidates because that's against the law.
Right.
But what they can do is they can go and use these think tanks, which then develop the policy position, which then the lobbyists come in who do donate directly to the candidates, and they then go and persuade the candidates to do the right thing. And now, you know, the latest thing, John, I don't know if you heard about this, Buick, you know, we bailed out General Motors. They used to make GM cars in Janesville, Ohio, Wisconsin, the home of Paul Ryan. They're now going to be building their Buicks in China and importing them directly to the U.S. So that's what we got for the GM bailout.
Right. So just so our audience understands, Flint, Michigan, one of the cities, it used to be called Buick City, USA, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was the biggest Buick car manufacturing plant in the United States. We're in Flint. We give GMC the bailout. They take the money. They bail themselves out. And now they ship the jobs and the manufacturing plants for Buick to China. It's just incredible. So the taxpayers bail them out to give them the money to then ship the jobs to China. And then the automobiles come back to L.A. on a ship. We just stand idly by and say nothing.
Right. So China gets our industry. They get our automotive industry. It used to, and we get the equivalent of Chinese poisoned food. Right.
Yes.
People of Flint now can't drink the water.
Right.
People in China are afraid of eating the food there because it's made out of, you know, antifreeze or something.
Right.
And, so we get what the Chinese used to have, and the Chinese have what we used to have. We used to have a middle class. We used to have an industrial economy that could support people, could support first world infrastructure, support clean water systems. That's all gone.
I mean, it's unbelievable to me that this one issue is not at the forefront of every presidential campaign right now, right?
Well, they're trying to hide it.
They're trying to hide it. It's nowhere in the media. Nobody can find it. And I'm thinking about going out to L.A. the day that these come on the ship from China and just getting people to rally around the outrage of this. I mean, how can GMC take our taxpayer dollars to bail themselves out and then ship jobs overseas? It's obscene, Curtis.
Well, what we have to do, yeah. I mean, I love it. If you're out there, I'll be there with you. And every time these Buicks, show up at the dealership, because they're not just going to come off the ship and they're going to be sold like, hamburgers hot off the griddle
they go to the
at the side at the ship side, at the port of Long Beach. No, they're going to be put on trucks and they're going to be sent to Buick dealerships all around the country. And every place, every time, every dealership that has these for sale should be the site of a rally, should be the site of a protest, should be the site of pickets. You should have Make America Great Again. Get rid of Chinese Buicks.
It's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable what is happening to this country every day, and everybody is complicit with it because the cheap labor, the slave labor trade dollars just keep flowing to the big money Wall Street globalists. Now, Curtis, the European Union today just began sending people back across the sea, defying a human rights outcry as they send people back from Greece back to Turkey. What's the deal?
Well, the European Union is founded on the free flow of people, goods, and money across borders. That initially was the borders within the European Union. But you see the same elite, the same fanatical internationalists, the same who are in league with the fundamentalist libertarians, they believe there should be no borders anywhere. And the UN is on board with this. The UN is dictating to these people that we have to get rid of borders everywhere. Migrants have a right to move wherever they want. And they have this, and it's just inhuman. It's against their human rights to restrict entry of people into any country. Migrants should be able to move wherever they want. And you've got the big money people, the slave traders, say, well, supply and demand. If we increase the supply of labor, the price will go down. So let's bring in people all they want. Well, Austria, by the way, last week, didn't make the newspapers here. Austria closed its borders. It said, we're not going to accept any asylum seekers. Under international law, you seek asylum if you're facing imminent death, danger of persecution, or danger of death. You can go into another country and claim asylum, and most countries in the world have signed this treaty. And what Austria said is, we're going to process those requests at the border. When you show up at the border, we're not going to let you into the country. If you claim asylum, you claim it at the border, and we're going to make that decision right there whether you come in or not. And they say, but essentially, they're not letting anybody in because somebody could say, oh, well, I face imminent death in my home country of Syria. Excuse me, you're not standing in Syria. You're standing on the border of Austria and Slovenia. You don't face imminent death in Slovenia, so you don't qualify for asylum. Which is absolutely true.
Right.
You see? Absolutely true. These people, if they face persecution back in Syria, they don't face persecution in Turkey.
It's unbelievable.
So when the Greeks send them back to Turkey, they don't face imminent death.
Right.
They faced imminent discomfort living in a refugee camp in Turkey, but hey, I live in discomfort in the East Village in Manhattan. I don't have a palace here, so I face imminent discomfort when I go out on the street. Maybe not as bad as a refugee camp in Turkey, but I don't face imminent death, and I can't claim it.
Nope.
So what's going on is you've got this cabal, and they're in Washington, they're in Geneva, they're in the city of London, they're in Turtle Bay, UN headquarters. They believe there should be, and they're in these think tanks and these nonprofit associations in Washington, D.C., that are peddling this line that there should be no borders, people should be able to buy and sell wherever they want, however they want. Nations are outdated. That's an old superstition left over from, the Holy Roman Empire or something. And we don't need countries anymore. We don't need borders. And if you put a tariff on things that come in from out of the country, that's a tax on consumers. So we should never have tariffs and never do any of this stuff. It's all great. And who's it great for? It's great for the people who are giving all these people money. It's great for the importers. It's great for the government-subsidized industries in East Asia that are trying to build up their country. It's great for the international corporations. So that's, and it's interesting. Just as the European Union is realizing that the free flow of people across borders has basically cuckolded them. It's a Trojan horse of historic proportions. The United States is still moving in that direction with this Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is based on the free flow of people, goods, and money across borders.
That's the bottom line right there. It's an outrage. And who gets screwed once again? U.S. workers, middle class, middle income workers get the short end of the stick. Nobody is sticking up for them, in my opinion, except Trump. I want to thank Curtis Ellis for being with us. More information, go to Obamatrade.com. That's Obamatrade.com. And Curtis, by the way, I'll be in New York City April 18th, 19th, and 20th for the New York primary. Let's definitely get together there. Maybe I can do one of my shows from the UN if you get me credentialed. I'll see you then.
Yeah, I'll look into that. See if they'll let you in. They might say, not the commander of common sense. We can't have any common sense here at the UN.
Go to Obamatrade.com.